Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Is the downturn in the economy keeping you up at night? What you don't need is a new pillow. What you need is a new plan.
Welcome to the Worry-Free Retirement with best-selling author and fiduciary Tony Walker.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Them that have it get more of it. The less they need it, the more they love it. And it sticks to them like glue. Funny, funny, funny what money can do.
In 1978, my granddad retired from Bell South Telephone Company. He didn't have a written game plan on how and when to retire because there wasn't any reason for one back then. Back in those days, people who approached the second half of life, as I like to call it, either just kept working for as long as they could, or they stopped working and had someone else send them a monthly check called a pension. My granddad called it mailbox money. So whether back then you were a farmer and never retired and just kept farming as long as you could farm, or maybe you were a business owner who kept doing business as long as people kept walking through the doors, or maybe you were like my granddad, fortunate enough to work for the government or a big company like the phone company who could afford to pay you mailbox money for the rest of your life. Back then, believe it or not, most people did not plan for retirement. And certainly, even in their mind's eye, they did have some sort of plan in mind of what they might do and when they might slow down and quit working. There was no written game plan of when that was going to actually happen. But the way people viewed retirement and the uncertainty of how they could retire all changed in 1978. No, not just because my granddad retired, but because Congress passed into law something called the 401k plan, and thus setting off the world of risk and uncertainty for Joe Lunchbox forever. Well, welcome to the Worry-Free Retirement, folks, and I am that little man in the sweater vest 401k rollover specialist and fiduciary, also the household name of the term mailbox money now, Tony Walker. And with me in our Louisville studios this morning on April 7th, 2020, is our very own favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander. Good morning, Aaron.
Hey, good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing real well, and as always, appreciate you getting up bright and early to come into the office here. And we've decided to knock out just a couple of shows today, so we're going to be working hard. We're going to do 2 radio shows, 2 television shows, and we're just trying to get ahead of the curve, folks. You know, this is all about planning. I'm in the planning business, and I told Aaron, I said, you know, this whole coronavirus thing and people shutting things down has reminded me that, you know, you just got to plan ahead in everything, even in our shows. Although we stay way ahead, this will put us even further out in advance, and so I appreciate you, Aaron, coming in and helping on this. Megan is not available today, but she's with us in spirit, and of course, working on those graphics as well. So we've got a great show coming up for you on the radio show, and of course the television shows that you can check out over the weekend throughout Kentucky. So Aaron, here we are, and we're talking about a plan, a written plan. Now, when we come into the television show especially, the radio show is a little different, but the television show, what is it we've been trying to work on over the years? And what is that? We've been trying to what? Get a script.
Get a script, get a game plan for the shows per se. I guess you could call it that.
Yeah, and I think what we've realized over the years, we're now well over our 300th episode of the show, is you have to still keep writing. You still have to keep putting things on paper. You got to still keep researching. And folks, it's the same thing with your 401k. Now, here's what's going on. As of April 7th, 2020, many of you are losing sleep overnight because you have experienced a significant drop in your 401k, or maybe you're just losing sleep over the fact that this darn economy is shut down, and you're wondering when in the heck things are going to get back to normal. So, I've been in this business 35 years, Aaron. I've never seen anything quite like this, where the government in one fell swoop pretty much tells people, hey, here's what we're going to do from here on out, and we're shutting this thing down. I mean, it's still operating. Right. I drove by a couple of restaurants, and it's kind of weird looking when you drive by the restaurants, isn't it? The big restaurants.
Yeah, it's a ghost town.
Ghost town. There's signs out. We do takeout now. I mean, it's really weird. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you knew this. I've got a client. Are you familiar with this DoorDash stuff? There's a bunch of them.
I've heard of it. I haven't used it a whole bunch.
I've got a client of mine whose son basically has started, the son got laid off, so he's got to do something. So he's working for one of these companies where they'll, you go online, you go to an app, you order your food from any restaurant that participates. Then he's contacted, kind of like an Uber driver, he goes to the restaurant, picks up the food, gets pretty good tips apparently, delivers the food to the address and kind of like leaves it on the door like a secret package. They're not supposed to knock on the door with this coronavirus thing. But I asked the client, I said, hey, has your son mentioned what is one of the more popular restaurants that he's picking up food from and taking it to people? You know what the answer was? You'll never guess this one. Take a stab at it. Just name any restaurant that comes to mind. Any restaurant?
Outback.
Outback. That's a pretty good guess. No, he said the most common thing he keeps getting requests for is White Castle.
White Castle, huh?
I'm thinking, okay, that explains why we're going through so much toilet paper. So anyway, so folks, we're talking about not having a retirement plan. And what we're trying to expose today is the fact that back in 1978, when all this changed, when Congress enacted into law the 401k, the problem is the 401k is not, listen very closely, and this will help you understand why you're so worried about money. The 401k is not a retirement plan. There is no written game plan at all with a 401k plan. A 401k plan is a savings plan. This is worth repeating, folks. Think about what we're talking about here. You have been so reliant on this 401k for retirement, but it is really a savings plan. It has no instruction booklet contained within it, nor captain of the ship, we'll talk about this next week, nor captain of the ship to guide you through the maze of the tax laws and how to understand fees and how to understand risk, all these things that are associated with things that my granddad never, ever had to worry about. With mailbox money, that's the good thing. You don't have a bunch of fees to worry about. You don't have a bunch of risk to worry about. The idea of mailbox money is the same thing I illustrated in my best-selling book, Live Well, Die Broke, is the idea of making sure you have plenty of income in retirement and don't run out of money. And the 401k, up until recently with the passage of another law, it's not even required to even address the idea of not running out of money because nothing in it's guaranteed. Again, hopefully that's going to change soon. But right now, there's not much about the 401k that's guaranteed. So it's not really a retirement plan. It's a savings plan. And when I come back, it's going to be pretty interesting. I've decided to kind of go through a little timeline and explain to you what's happened over the last 30 years or so. And now as all these baby boomers start to retire, why we're seeing so much unpredictability going on in the stock market, why people are getting a little nervous about retirement when they didn't used to, quite frankly, and how you can arm yourself with a game plan, a written game plan, which is what we do at Tony Walker Financial, so you don't feel like you're going to keep losing sleep over this stuff. Stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? Then download Mailbox Money for Life from best-selling author and retirement planning specialist Tony Walker. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Well, with us in the studio is our own Lisa Allerkamp, all the way from Bowling Green, Kentucky. Lisa, first of all, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And as we said, we just wanted you to share with the audience a little bit about, first of all, your background. You came out of the financial world, and then since that time, your work at Tony Walker Financial.
Sure. Of course, my background is in financial management, and previously I was employed in the banking industry for several years, held various positions in the bank, did a little bit of accounting before I came to you into the retirement planning services.
And I think I told you this, we were actually looking for another staff member to fill this position, And you didn't have quite the qualifications for this one. We needed somebody that had a little bit of investment experience, but I told Heather, I remember us saying, we've got to hire that young lady. I was so impressed with your background, and you've worked out to be a wonderful employee. And with that accounting background, it's helped because now you're doing a lot of our income plans. Explain to people when you first started with Tony Walker Financial, maybe what a retirement planning specialist you thought to be and what we do in terms of the extensive work.
Right. Well, actually, I didn't really know all that went into retirement planning. It's been very eye-opening, but very rewarding to learn the process. Of course, with all the income plans, all the analysis that goes into each one, and they're specific to each individual client. So there's a lot of work that goes into each plan.
And then also, give us your designation in terms of your certification in Social Security. That's been very helpful to our clients.
The actual title is Certificate Holder of National Social Security Advisors Association, which just means a little extra training that allows me to assist clients with any of their Social Security issues.
And so what would be a good thing to do, Lisa, if somebody has Social Security questions? There's a lot of things that come up about, when to file for Social Security. Do I wait? Do I start? What about if I'm divorced and have a former spouse? How do I work in terms of filing for that? What would be your suggestion to them, and what are the process we go through with those particular clients?
Sure. All kinds of questions come up with Social Security. It's a complex thing, so I'd welcome anybody to contact me at the office or email me at lisa@tonywalkerfinancial.com. I'll either know the answer, but if I don't know the answer, I do have resources that I'll be glad to find out.
Well, Lisa, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come be with us. You've become an invaluable employee, and we very much appreciate you and the work you do for our clients.
I'm glad to be here, Tony. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. That was our own Lisa Allerkamp. We've started an employee spotlight at Tony Walker Financial. Our staff is growing so much and doing such a great job, and all of our staff really has certain purposes and goals in mind in terms of their duties for our clients. So in the Bowling Green office, that's really more of our main hub. That's where all of the service work takes place. Although we do have offices in Lexington and Louisville, the main staff is in Bowling Green. So if you were working with us, if you're rolling over your 401k, you've got an inheritance, you want us to put money in our Schwab portfolio, you've got questions on annuities or an annuity you've purchased through us, the majority of those would go through our Bowling Green office. Now, my favorite son-in-law, Trey, and Gina, she helps Trey up here in the Louisville office. They actually work on the life insurance, long-term care, Medicare supplements. Those would go through the Louisville office. But the brunt of our work and all of the staff like Lisa is out of the Bowling Green office. But we're going to have every show, we're going to kind of spotlight our staff. They do such a good job, and people do want to know sometimes, hey, Tony, if something happens to you, who's behind Tony Walker Financial? So we want to share that with you, and also the confidence I have in these folks should something happen to me. Don't plan on it happening, but you never know. We are well equipped at Tony Walker Financial to continue on long after Tony Walker bites the dust, if you know what I mean. All right, I'm going to kind of start off with a Tony in the Trenches question, because this leads right up to what we're talking about. And remember, if you're just now joining us, we're talking about the 401k is really a savings plan. It is not a retirement plan. Now, let me start off with this Tony in the Trenches. This was a gentleman that said, Tony, I'm 73 years of age, and I read that the new stimulus package passed by Congress, this is as a result of the coronavirus, this stimulus package that was just passed, there was a requirement this year that they allow us to waive our RMDs. So in other words, with this stimulus package, if you're 72 years of age or older, you have to take out your required minimum distribution. We can help you with all this stuff. But they're not requiring it this year. So that leads me to the thought of, okay, is everybody not going to take it out? So Aaron, what do you think the average Joe Lunchbox is going to do? If they don't have to take out the RMD and pay taxes, what's going to be their tendency? You think they'll take it out or just leave it in there?
Probably just leave it in there.
Yeah. And intuitively, you'd say, well, why not? I mean, what the heck? Why would I want to pay taxes on it? Folks, this is getting to the brunt of what we're talking about. You have a savings plan, the 401k, or whether it's been rolled into an IRA or 403b or TSP, they're all the same. And that puppy has not been taxed, assuming it's pre-tax. So you're putting off the pain of the taxes. Quite frankly, if you've got money in the stock market, this would probably be a good time to take an RMD when it's low so you can pay lower taxes. If you just defer it, even if the market comes back, and down the road if they raise taxes, which I think they're going to eventually have to, all you're doing is putting off the pain, and it could be even worse. So that's just a small amount of evidence in terms of what we see when people do not have what we call a written game plan. Now, I'm going to ask an interesting question, and I want you to think about this question before you just, if you're riding down the road or whatever, blurt out an answer to yourself. All right, here we go. Assuming you are not yet retired, so I'm going to ask this question of two different people, those retired and those who have not yet retired. Assuming you have not yet retired, why are you saving right now? Why are you saving so much money for retirement? Okay, a little pause. Just wait a minute. Okay, the next part of that question is for those who have already retired. So if you've already retired, the question is, why did you save all of that money over all of those years for retirement? Now, to help you think through this question before you blurt out an answer, Aaron, let's play the theme song from Jeopardy. This will help you out. Ah, yes, I love that Jeopardy theme song. Okay, here's the answer. Hopefully you said the reason I saved all this money for retirement, Tony, is so that one day I can spend it. That's right, folks. A savings plan is meant to be spent. The problem is with a 401k savings plan, again, it doesn't come with an instruction manual on how to spend and enjoy and protect it for as long as you live. That's why you need a retirement specialist. You see, most people I meet, even those who, and this is kind of sad, even those who have rolled over their money to an individual IRA still don't have a retirement game plan. They think they've got one. Maybe they've rolled it into an annuity or they've rolled it over to an individual brokerage account and they've got a money manager, and that's okay. That's fine. Somebody's trying to, quote, manage the money, but that doesn't mean that's a plan. A written game plan is what you need to sleep better at night, because that written game plan, number one, shows you what you've got. It gets everything organized in your mind, and then for your partner or kids or whatever, everybody knows where everything is now. But more importantly, a written game plan should show you how the money is going to be what I call deployed or used. It's going to show you which buckets, as we like to say, we're going to pull money out from time to time. That retirement game plan is what is going to help you sleep better at night. That's the point, folks. So if you don't have a written game plan, all you've got is a savings plan. And if all you got is a savings plan, you don't have a spending plan. And if you don't have a spending plan, you got to ask yourself, what in the world am I doing? You see, think about this. Let's go back to my granddad. He already had a built-in spending plan. That's why he didn't need a written game plan. Let's think about this. He worked for Bell South for over 43 years. All right? You got it? Never saved a penny towards retirement. Didn't have 401ks back then. All the while, Bell South is funding a retirement plan for my grandfather. Now, when he retires, all he had to do was contact his employer, and they said, Bill, do you want to take out income just for you, or at your death, would you want to leave something to Hazel? And he decided to leave something to his wife, Hazel. But it was very easy to set up, and all he did was make an election. He checked a box, turned in his paperwork to Bell South. Immediately following that, he gets this monthly check in his mailbox for the rest of his life. Pretty simple. But when you think about it, it forced him to spend his retirement. That's what the point of this is. I still don't understand why people are so afraid to spend money until I get back and step back and go, well, it's obvious. The reason they don't want to spend their money is because their money is at risk. Are you following what I'm saying here? Aaron, are you following this? This makes sense?
I think I get what you're saying.
If you have $100 in the bank, but let's say the bank was a risky place, and one day you call up and it's worth 80, one day 120, one day 70. You might say, you know what, Jessica, I'm kind of afraid to spend our money now because I think we got a lot of money, but the thing's all over the place. So you know what I'll do, Jessica? Let's just save it for a rainy day. Wouldn't that be logical? It's probably the way you'd think, right?
Right.
That's how we react to fear and uncertainty. You know, what I would say is no, what you got to do is batten down the hatches here. Come on now. And you need to safeguard more of that money, because the more you safeguard, the more predictable that money is, and should be anyway, the more you should be able to save. This is why we enjoy our money with the worry-free retirement. This is why we love fixed annuities, coupled with our Charles Schwab platform, which we can provide some money in the stock market, some, not all again. We don't mind putting some in there for our clients who wish to do that. But the idea is we want a written game plan. Now, I hold it in my hot little hands, and this is something you can't see, but you can go to our website and watch former YouTube videos of the Worry-Free Retirement TV show, and I'm going to go over this on this particular show. You just go to youtube.com and type in Tony Walker Financial to watch all the previous episodes. But what I'm holding right here is a worry-free retirement game plan. Now, this binder, a lot of people I hand this to after the first appointment when I provide my assessment, they go, oh my gosh, I've never seen so much information and so much detail about me. And I said, well, that's the whole problem. The financial world is not really that interested in providing this detail. The financial world works on the premise you hand over your money to us, we'll take care of it, and we'll send you money as we can send you money, and depending on how much is there, hopefully you won't outlive it. And again, not really a game plan at all. So what I'm going to do, when I come back, I'm going to walk through the idea of where did this whole notion of worry creep into retirement, the timeline involved, and what's happened because people don't have a written game plan, and why people worry so much about their 401ks and their other investments for retirement. I'm Tony Walker. You stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? Then download Mailbox Money for Life from best-selling author and retirement planning specialist Tony Walker. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. We have a term that we trademark. People say, what do you specialize in over there? What I tell people is we specialize in sleep insurance, is what we specialize in. So I define sleep insurance as the ability to go to sleep at night and not worry about what your money is going to look like when you wake up in the morning. It's kind of like the My Pillow guy. You know, we want a good night's sleep. We don't want to have to worry about what's going to happen when we wake up in the morning. Oh, incidentally, speaking of sleep, Aaron, you know I've got a strange sleep schedule, don't you?
Yes.
We're recording this show. It's a little before 8 o'clock. Do you realize how long I've already been up? Do you want to take a guess? Probably don't, do you?
I'll say you got up at 2:30 this morning.
That's pretty close. 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, all right.
So I've been working
you
on the shows.
Slept in, huh?
And we have slept in. And then a lot of times what I'll do, it's strange, my wife thinks I'm crazy. I'll get up for a while. Maybe at 5 o'clock I'll go back to sleep. So I might be up 3 or 4 hours, go back to sleep. I call it the 2x4 effect. I wake up like an hour and a half later. Have you ever done that? You go back to sleep and you wake up and you go, oh my gosh, you feel like hit me.
I have little kids. Yes, I've done that many times.
Man, there's times I thought, why did I go back to sleep? You feel awful. But anyway, I was up diligently working on shows this morning. I love to work on things while my mind's fresh. I kind of take after Thomas Edison a little bit, or he doesn't take after me. He was a world leader in inventions. But you know what he said about sleep? Did you ever hear this quote, Aaron?
I think I've heard you mention it before. Something about when I'm tired, I sleep, or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Edison had a different way of looking at things. He didn't like to work on a schedule. He said, when I'm sleepy, I go to sleep, and when I'm hungry, I eat. Because, we think about our schedules. We got to be on a sleep schedule. We got to eat at certain times. And Edison just would work and do things as his mind was fresh. Now, there is one problem with that. If you drive a lot like I do, you got to watch your sleep. You don't want to fall asleep behind the wheel. You know how many miles I've estimated I've put on my car driving back and forth from Bowling Green to Louisville to Lexington, et cetera, in the last 20 years, Aaron? What would you guess?
300,000 miles.
It's well over 500,000 miles.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so folks, driving a car is kind of like trying to drive your 401k home. You don't want to fall asleep at the wheel. The problem is most of you, as we'll see next week, we're going to talk about this, you don't have anybody behind the wheel. You're trying to drive a car that you don't understand. So the problem is, here's what's happened. Back in 1978, if we start moving forward, we haven't really seen how unpredictable the 401ks have been because nobody was really retired yet. Think about that. When the 401ks were implemented in 1978, it took probably a good 20 years before people had finally started accumulating money in them. That makes sense, doesn't it, Aaron? Because if you start a 401k in 78, when you start saving, it's going to take years to grow it, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it took years to grow it. A lot of the people were still on pensions. So a lot of the older folks weren't even putting money into the 401k. So it really, what I saw, and I've been doing this a long time, as we approached 2001, when we had the 9/11 incident, that's when finally people were starting to have decent amounts of money in their 401k plan. And people were nearing retirement. Those types of people around 9/11 were going to have to rely on their 401k. So really the 401k as it's played out, listen, as it's played out, has really not been around that long to really see how it plays out. Really only about, I'd say, 20 years of significant growth, significant amounts of people that have 401ks, and more importantly, watching how this plays out as significant amounts of people over the last 20 years have started retiring, and that number will only go up. So if you've got money in the stock market in your 401k, it's really hard to go back into the past to see how things have worked, because the past is a very short period of time when it comes to 401k plans. You can't even go back to 78. You really need to go back to about 1998 as to when to really look at these plans. So again, what we're talking about is, we're not talking about savings plans. You've got a 401k. We're talking about a retirement game plan. So maybe that's you. You're sitting there and you're sitting there saying, okay, Tony, what do I do then? I've got this 401k plan. Can I even move it? Can I do something with it? And the answer is probably not if you're under certain ages. So let's talk about the things you can do, or when you can move a 401k, when you're allowed by law to roll it over to somebody like us to manage and to set up a game plan. Number one, if you have a 401k with a previous employer, you can roll it over to us. We'll talk about this again in more detail next week's show. You can do that. If you normally, this is most 401ks, if you are over the age of 59 and a half, don't know why they chose that age, it's just in the law, but over 59 and a half, most custodians of those 401ks will let you roll them over. So that would be a time that you could roll over and get a game plan with us. Let me think out loud. Another one would be just normal separation from service. Maybe you terminate employment, you get laid off, your company's closed. See, this is happening right now. Many of you have been terminated from employment, or companies are going to close or soon close as a result of this downturn in the economy. That would give you an opportunity to move your 401k to Tony Walker Financial. And of course, the normal thing most people do is when they retire, most people don't leave their 401k sitting back and retiring and letting the 401k custodian manage it, because they definitely are not going to get a game plan with the 401k custodian. The 401k custodian usually can't even give advice. They're not fiduciaries like we are. Now, that's another thing. One more thing. You make sure if you're moving money out of a 401k or an IRA, and even if it's going into an annuity, those people are supposed to be fiduciaries. If an advisor, and because I've talked to the state about this, that oversees advisors such as myself, their interpretation is as follows. This is the Department of Financial Institutions. If an advisor is moving somebody from a securities product, like a brokerage account or 401k, into an annuity, even if it's a fixed annuity, even if the advisor is licensed, that advisor is supposed to be registered as an investment advisor or fiduciary. So here's what I would say. Before you go moving money over to people, ask them up front, are you a fiduciary? If they're not a fiduciary, get a second opinion, because those people are not required to work in your best interest. Pretty scary stuff. So anyway, back to what we do. So here's what I'm going to suggest. If you do not have a written game plan that first of all shows you where everything's located, that is your money in your 401k, your savings, all that, we'll do all this for you. And then secondly, how that money is going to be used, how the money's future taxes are going to be on that money, what the fees are. Maybe it's time to meet with us at Tony Walker Financial. Now, depending on what's going on with this virus situation, and right now we're not meeting people in person, it's still easy to do. If we're past that point and we can meet in person, we're fine to do that at any of our offices, Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington. And yes, you could meet with me in person if you like, or one of our other fiduciaries. Or we can do what's called a video conference, where we can do a meeting over the internet, through the magic of the internet, and talk that way. Or just simply do a phone call. We're doing those, where we're having the phone call. People are sending us their information, their documents. We're putting the plan together, mailing the plan in our nice binder, sending a video with that so they can watch the video, and then I follow up with a phone call. So either way, there's not a problem for us to talk about your situation. So if you're ready to get a written game plan, you're tired of losing sleep at night, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started button, or give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. Next week, we'll be talking about the Titanic icebergs and what they have to do with your financial future. You've been listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. You remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free.